Okay, let's start another week, another episode of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. Dashi Miller here from Warrior Concepts in East Central Pennsylvania. So if you're in the area, hey, stop on by. Anyway, all right, so this week, where's my marker? There we go. So we're going to be taking a look at 5 strategies for attack avoidance. All right. So where I really want to start with this is when we're learning something as involved and as what I'm going to call life mission critical as self-protection and survival. Right. Again, so this is not the fighter kind of guys that, you know, are duking it out for belts and things like that. Not knocking them. These guys are very, very skilled in what they do. Okay. We're just in a different realm. So when we're looking at this kind of thing, we actually have to look at two ends of the goal paradigm. It's like a $50 word out of a $5 mouth, right? The structure. Okay. Mandala is like a paradigm, right? Mandala also means perimeter or paradigm, the area that you're working in, right? That kind of thing. Okay. So anyway, there's 2 sides to this. One side is the end game, right? What we're aiming for, right? For a lot of people, it's what they're going to be able to do when they can wipe the floor with the bad guy's ass, that kind of thing, right? What kind of skill sets you're going to have, what kind of skill proficiency you're going to have, right? I want to be able to move like my teacher. I want to be able to move like the Grandmaster. I want to be able to do it like, I don't know, Steven Seagal. Who knows? Anyway, so, which is really funny. In a couple of years, people are going to be watching this video going, who? Anyway, happens to me all the time. Anyway, so, but we can get too caught up in this one-sided viewpoint to where we may not only get disappointed because we're not getting there fast enough, right? We're still struggling with the basics or this thing or that thing, right? I'm not there yet, right? Often a lot of people end up having what I call the drive-up window mentality, okay? If I can't order a number 6, pay you $10 or whatever and have my satisfaction that quickly, then I'm going to go look for a different program, which is why the ones that promise, right, in their marketing and teach you one or a handful of techniques or whatever, and in 30 minutes you'll be able to wipe any bad guy's ass off the planet. Those things sell like hotcakes. I mean, I would imagine how much money I could make if I just converted all this stuff. My problem is morals and ethics are too freaking high. Anyway, all right, so that's not a bad thing. All right, so but this focusing on only on the end, right? That end result, it's important. It's absolutely important. But the other thing that can happen is it can have us missing like the most important pieces of the training process itself. The things that those people that we want to emulate, that we want to be like, that they have hands down, right? That we want to miss. In my own training, going to Japan over the past bunch of decades, and seeing the starstruck eyes of people that go and, you know, they want to move like Soke, they want to move like the master teachers or whatever. And so they don't go to any of the instructors' classes where they're covering basics, or if they do, I've met several people along the way. When I say several, I mean more than multiple handfuls, who say that they only train with Hatsumi Sensei. So they only went to his classes, but he was teaching at whatever the highest level of the belts were in that level, right? So, but what people often miss is that like he's so far beyond those basic things, and it's not like he's beyond them because that's beneath me. I'm beyond that. No, they're so hardwired into his system that he can't screw them up. Okay, and that's what we always tell students: don't practice till you get a technique right. You practice till you can't get a technique wrong. Okay, but either way, right? So we can skip over things, and in our attempt to get to being the man or the whoa man, right? Really, really fast. One big way that this can show up or it can play out is that we only focus on the moves only so far as to get to the end of the technique, right? Where the partner's on the floor, right? The teacher took them down, all that kind of stuff, right? And so we miss the point that we need to earn. One of my teachers was that was a huge word for him. You need to earn every move in the technique, right? You learn the techniques, you have this model, but then as you're working more and more and your partner's applying more resistance and they're allowed to block or they're allowed to avoid if they see it coming and those kind of things, you have to earn every move in there because the kata is only the place to start, or the technique that the teacher is demonstrating. It's funny to me, there's a lot of these self-defense systems and stuff that kata don't work on the street, right? You can't do that, but they demonstrate technique models that are standardized in their program. That's a fucking kata. I don't care if you call it that or not. It's an example, a form, a scenario, whatever. Anyway, so one way that this can play out is we're so focused on getting to the end point that we're missing the points that get us there. It's kind of like rungs on a ladder, right? I set up the ladder, right? I joined the class. I set up the ladder, and my role model, the carpenter, the roofer, the guy that I'm apprenticing under, he's already on the roof tacking down shingles. Okay, all right, great, yeah. Well, because I didn't see him climb the ladder rung for rung, I could assume that he just levitated up there. Okay, and I know how that can sound ludicrous, right? Well, that's stupid, Sensei. It's not the same. Yeah, the process is exactly the same. Okay, so we can miss, just like when people tell me that I don't understand their problem because they are in a state in their life where life's conspiring against them, right? Some of these guys are living a quiet life or a life of quiet desperation. Job, family, no time, no money, no whatever. And I don't understand because I've always been in this condition, in this state. We ate fried egg sandwiches when I was growing up, and my mom's our poor approach to macaroni and cheese was what I would call scalloped macaroni noodles. And what that means is my mom would put macaroni noodles, she would cook them in a pot to soften them, put them in a casserole dish, put some milk and some butter in there, and then lay cheap American cheese on top, and then bake that. And then we would all fight for a piece of cheese on this cooked milky macaroni. Okay, that's fucking poor, right? So anyway, so we need to know that there's we need to focus on two different sides, right? We can keep our eye on the goal, right? We know where we're going, okay? But the other viewpoint, right, especially with regards to self-defense, is to ask ourselves, what is one of the most important first skills to learn? Or what are the most important first skills to learn, right? That will actually protect us from a large variety of attacks, even if we're attacked before we reach the level of, I don't know, kick-ass master, okay? We don't have a black belt yet or whatever, okay? What can make us, regardless of rank, regardless of self-defense system certification, regardless of status, regardless of time and rank, what can get us to some level of skill proficiency with street readiness quickly? And here's the thing. Most people, that end goal is focusing on whooping this guy's ass. But self-defense doesn't start with whooping that guy's ass, right? And I'm sure a lot of you guys already have the 8 phases worksheet that we have, that PX8 worksheet, that system framework that we have. And if you don't, I'll try to remember to put a link down in the description. But we're going to skip over awareness and those kind of things, right? But what's something that you can do, okay? And that's the big question. What can we do up front? And these are important things that everything else builds on. Because you know what? You don't get to whoop his ass if all his shots land. There's a hint, all right? So before we carry on with this, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. You know the deal. Help get the word out, all that kind of stuff, right? Okay, so what's one of the first skills that we must have before anything else even matters, right? What's one of the first skills? right? It is attack avoidance, attack evasion. Okay. One of my teachers, and this has crept into my own classes, and my Mod 1 students get it, right? We've got 5 modules between white belt and first degree black belt, and my Mod 1 people, they're supposed to be memorizing this little chant, and the chant is, if you can't hit me, he can't hurt me, and if you can't hurt me, he can't beat me. Okay. So one of the first lessons is to be virtually untouchable. Yeah, I know, but what if he hits you? Okay, now we're riding off things. What if he grabs you? Well, now we're doing tehodoki, where we're doing grab escapes, those kind of things, right? But the first thing is to not get hit, right? Takuma Sensei, my teacher, Hatsumi Sensei's teacher, so my teacher's teacher, Takuma Sensei, his first year in the dojo with his grandfather was was training to become unbreakable. And what that means is, for the first year, every time he showed up to the dojo, his grandfather would just throw him around. And he had to learn ukemi. He had to learn how to not be damaged if the worst happened. Okay? That's the place to start, right? How do I not get broken even if this guy's stuff lands? But we can get so caught up in the fantasy. And it's not a fantasy, it's a dream. We want to live it out. But if we're not doing it properly and we don't get there, or it takes too long, yeah, it becomes a fantasy, right? So we need to take these things in priority steps, okay? If I can get this thing down, that when he throws a punch, he throws a kick, he tries to grab me, he misses his target, right? Or the way it touches is just, it's moot, right? It's impotent, right? We turn him into a 90-year-old guy that can't, well, you know. Anyway, all right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at this whole concept from the perspective of strategic flexibility. I'm going to give you 5 strategies for doing this, not 5 ways. You could translate this as ways, but I want you to think of it as strategies. Strategies are outcomes, right? They're ways that we approach a problem to produce a solution, okay? And the strategies get deeper and deeper. I just had somebody, I think last week, after one of the episodes, send in a topic request where we're going to be looking at this wind element and fighting like the wind. I remember a magazine article way back in the early 80s that was titled that, okay? And a lot of people just blow that stuff off. But again, they're code words. They're symbolic of certain attributes and qualities in given strategies or whatever, okay? Personalities, you can classify all kinds of things that way. So next episode, that's going to be the big focus, but we will touch on it as one of the things that we're doing today, all right? So let me look into this again from this perspective of strategic flexibility, and we're going to use an Eastern model, right, for classifying and categorizing things that I was introduced to in like almost from day one. Well, yeah, from before day one in my ninjutsu training. So we're going to be outlining all 5 of them today. And then during Friday's virtual class, right, I know a lot of you guys show up for those things, we'll be reviewing the lower 4, and then the 5th one, hopefully I convey it properly today because it's really difficult to put into words. We'll look at a couple of examples of it, but they're not the only way. The lower 4, the way we're going to do it, that's the strategy. The strategy for the 5th one, that gets a little, right, because people get confused. Well, isn't this one like that one? Isn't this? Yeah. Yes and no. It's where they start to combine, right? Anyway, you have to see it, right? So if you want to know how that works, there's the URL. All right. Okay. So first, let's do this. Let's take a look at why we need to know more than one way to do things. Why do we need this? What are the reasons for strategic flexibility, right? Some people might see this as like having or knowing more than one fight style, okay? And so Why, right? Why do this instead of just learning like one fight style and that's the way you're going to do it? Well, if you've been following this for a while, or you follow me on my Kuden podcast, or I don't know, you're a student, right? Then you've heard me very often talk about the hammer syndrome, right? You know the hammer syndrome, right? If all I have is a hammer, then every problem's a nail, whether it's a nail or not, okay? And that's the way we're going to approach things, right? If all I have are vice grips, then everything better be fixable by vice grips, okay? So we're going to take a look at these reasons for strategic flexibility, right? So the first one, we're going to get the elephant out of the room, or we're going to address the elephant that's in the room. Address, not dress, because if you're dressing an elephant, you're probably in a circus. Anyway, right? So the place that most people go here, the reason to know more than one fight style, right, is pretty much the MMA mentality, right? It's why in the earliest days of the UFC, by number 3, by people prepping for UFC 3, that's the only one I watched because people's agenda, anyway, it doesn't matter. So by then, everybody was going off to 6-week or 6-month BJJ ground fighting camps or to work with some trainer. And again, 6 weeks, 6 months, whatever, hoping that they would develop the skills necessary to beat the Gracies, who invented the UFC, by the way, and all the rules were wrapped around their art, really ninja way of doing things, right? But these people thought that instead of like looking at their system and matching things to how you could shut down somebody that was doing this specific thing, they decided they were going to run off. The Gracies have been doing BJJ or jiu-jitsu or whatever for how long? Since they were like 5 or 6 years old, each of them. And these grown-ass adults were going to go off to a 6-week or a 6-month camp, assuming they were going to develop the same or better skill level to be able to match somebody that's been doing it their entire life. Okay? So, but the number one reason that most people go to, right, is to match your attacker's fight style. Okay, to match your attacker's fight style. That means if he's doing Taekwondo style kicking, then you're going to do Taekwondo style kicking. If he's doing grappling, then you're going to grapple. If he's no. You punch a grappler and you grapple a puncher. And I know how different that seems, and it's not that simple. Okay. However, doing it this way is like really, think of if you're in sports, and I'm not a sports watcher, so my analogy is going to be like old man stuff. Think about a high profile baseball. Yeah, let's just do baseball player. Okay. And he's going to go and play on a football team, but he's going to dress in his baseball attire. He's going to wear a baseball cap and baseball jersey and, the shoe cleats and stuff like that to play in a football game. And some high profile football player, right? He's going to go play baseball in his football gear. And they're going to try to get it to cross. That's what that's like, right? It puts you at a disadvantage because the other guy's probably already really good there. Our way of matching, the ninjutsu way of matching his fight style is to actually do the things that will inhibit him. You understand his fight style so that you take up postures or whatever in a way that inhibits him from being able to do the stuff that is preferred or that he's good at or whatever, okay? You don't match it the way that most people do. If you match it, shit, he already knows what you're going to do. He already knows how you're going to do it. He's already seen it before. He already has defenses against it. Okay? Yeah, but it's a fair fight. We're not fighting. This is an attack. Right? This is a survival situation. Okay? I didn't volunteer to be there. Okay? So it's not the same. Okay? All right, so that's the elephant in the room, right? Reasons for strategic flexibility. If I were somebody else, if I could match his fight style or at least understand it, right? If we're learning somebody else's fight style, it's to understand it so we learn how somebody from White Crane Kung Fu or from BJJ or Western boxing or whatever, how they posture, how they throw a punch, how they, right, those kind of things. So we understand the strengths in it, we understand the weaknesses in it. Okay, this is studying Budo. This is studying warfare. Okay. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is environmental reasons. You know, like the Green New Deal. No, not that. Okay? Don't fart during a fight. You're putting noxious gas in there anyway. All right, so I know I probably just triggered a couple of people. I don't give a shit. Anyway, so environmental reasons. So a big problem that arises in martial arts training or self-defense training is people train in a big, wide, open, clear area. Right? They move stuff out of the way, or like in our martial arts school, it's all open, right? There's chairs over there for a viewing area. Striking targets are along this one section over here. All the weapons and body shields and hand striking targets and some other weapons and all that are all over here and whatever. But there's a big open area. Okay, yeah, good luck with that. Right? Unless you're attacked in the middle of a wide open parking lot and there are no cars around. Okay, but we got to worry about furniture. If we're in a home or in an office, right, workplace violence, that kind of thing, we have to worry about like in a parking lot, parked cars. What's the orientation? Where are we, right? Is there a fender here and a fender here, or am I like right in here where the doors are, but then we've got these mirrors that stick out? And then are they the same size cars, or is the mirror here and there's a big old pickup truck with a vertical mirror right here? Right? It's different. Okay. Escape routes, right? If I'm trying to get out of there, right, I don't want to duke it out, or I want to do minimum necessary so I can get the hell out, right? Which way is the escape route? I probably don't want to be going in the opposite direction to have to turn back and go and try to get out through him or his friends. Okay. There's a whole bunch of reasons, but environment, unstable ground, all kinds of things. Okay. So number three, and again, these are in no particular order except for that one. I need to get that one out of the way, right? This one is emotional states. Or emotional state, right? What's your emotional state? A lot of fight systems stay in this, what we call fire realm, where you're in there, okay? But people that gravitate toward that kind of fighting already tend to have that kind of personality. But in a survival situation, even if you are, I'm an earth fiery kind of guy, right? Very, very stable. But if a problem pops up or there's a project to be done, you get the shit done. We get done, get it out of there, and call it a day, right? So I can get on to the next thing, right? But there are people in this world that are way bigger than me, faster than me. I don't know if they have weapons or not. So that's gonna cause a different kind of thing. Or maybe I've got my family. Well, I don't need trouble, right? There's these different kind of things that may pop up because of what's going on here, based on the way I'm translating the situation and those kind of things, right? And again, if we go into these, we're not going into them today. I'm just kind of going to give you the categorization. As we move forward, I'm going to start with this one. We'll probably end up going through a bunch of these, but this is how my program is kind of laid out. And so this is just an option, right? It's a strategic option. So if I'm forced into a situation, or emotionally, I just find myself in that kind of state, or it might not be emotional, it might be psychological, where I have my family and I don't need to get tied up in a fight because I don't know who else is around. I need to get them the hell out of here. Okay. So, right, where am I? There's right. If I'm only this guy and I go after him, who's protecting them? Right. The problem with a lot of fighters is they only think mano a mano, and they don't think big enough, because the battlefield isn't always just that bubble between you and him. Sometimes it is, and when it is, it's the only thing that matters. Okay, but we have to know what the bubble is first, because if my family's along, if my wife's right beside me or whatever, okay, I need to move in a way that protects her, because the bubble isn't just between me and him, it's between him and us. And I need to control that. Okay. Again, this is mindset. Strategy is a way of thinking that translates into doing. It's not memorizing a system or a style and then trying to get everything else to conform to that. That's like the little 2-year-old trying to take a square block and bang it or shove it into a round hole in one of those little toys that they have, right? The mindset's not there to be able to match, to recognize how to match things up, right? They don't have that kind of strategic thinking yet, right? And in all honesty, a lot of adults don't either. So anyway, right? And then number 4, and this is where I'm going to run out. I'm just going to give you 4 today. So in this one, right, I'm just going to write the word rules right here. Okay, rules. Okay. I might have to choose one of these things because, well, many of you know, over 3 decades ago, because I'm old, over 3 decades ago, I wore a different type of uniform, right? I was a military cop. And so not only like in the military, you know, most people think soldiers, right? But on a battlefield, operating pretty much like an infantry guy, right? My concern is shutting these guys down, as many as possible, hopefully before I get shut down or in lieu of me getting shut down, right? But as a military cop, I got the same problem that every other civilian law enforcement person has, right? Getting somebody into a restrained position so that I can get cuffs on them and maintain control, right? It's a very, very different thing. So here's the thing. When I was doing soldier training, I had one type of strategic approach, okay? Because it was allowed in a battlefield, right? Sentry takeout stuff, all that kind of stuff, right? There are no liability issues. The only thing soldiers tend to have to worry about are something called rules of engagement, which are really stupid, which means he has to shoot first and then we can be okay. Anyway, for law enforcement, use of force can't exceed the force that has to be reasonable and all that kind of stuff, right? For civilians, it's the self-defense doctrine. I just did an article that is on our blog. It's Ninja News on onlineninjaacademy.com. The most recent one, I'll try to remember to put a link down in the description again. It covers these 3 phases or these 3 aspects of self-defense training. So you can be training for self-defense, but what are the results or goals or outcomes? What kind of rules might you have to you know, deal with or whatever that you have to stay within, right? Because liability is different across those 3 areas that I just listed, right? So, but law enforcement officers have one. The rules that might be in effect are you work for a company where there is a 0 tolerance policy for workplace violence, but some other jackwagon brought the violence and you need to handle it, right? You couldn't get out, you couldn't hide, and now you need to handle it, but the employer translates what you did into you went ape shit and hurt somebody and now you're out. Well, shit, right? Now what? And I know that bullshit cliche that people like to say, right? I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6. Or, well, from somebody that I haven't been carried by 6 yet, right? I'm 61, so time's ticking. But from somebody that understands trial science and how they set up juries and all that kind of stuff, I don't know. I'm on the fence about which one would be better. Okay, I prefer neither, which is why in our system, phase 8 of that strategy framework that we have, is learning how to defend yourself against the legal system, because you would not. Right? They stack that jury with a bunch of people who believe that you as a self-defense or martial arts person would rather kick somebody in the head than say good morning to them. You're going to jail. Good luck with your defense attorney. Okay. And if you have a free defense attorney, you're going to jail anyway. Right? Because they get paid what, a flat fee, $50, $100 for your case, flat, whatever the tax system is in your area. In our area, they get somewhere between $50 and $100 for the case. So what they try to do is get it off their docket as quickly as possible so they can get on to the next one, because the longer they stay on it, they're still only getting $50 to $100, not an hour total. Okay. So anyway, all right. So these are reasons for strategic flexibility, right? Well, like I said, when I was a military cop on the battlefield, my strategy is very, very different than when I'm in cop mode, and different situations, different scenarios, different thing. Because I might need I might need what my one friend who requested the win strategy kind of thing. When I say friend, anybody that kind of interacts that's not flaming and being a troll. Yeah, okay. So, but think about somebody coming at me where they're panicking and trying to get help, but I see the danger behind them. Okay, so I might be in fire mode, rushing toward this thing. Next thing you know, here comes this guy who's going to put his hands on me because he's trying to get somebody to help him. And there's somebody with a badge and a gun, and in his head, I'm the guy to help, but there's something more pressing behind him. And so as he reaches out to grab, I slip by that, and then I move in and put hands on the other person. So the strategies can change from moment to moment based on what's going on, because that's life. Right? All right, so let's take a look at these 5 strategies really, really quickly here before I talk your ear off and put you to sleep, and then nobody will benefit from that. All right, so the first one, using this Eastern system called the Godai. Godai means 5 great or 5 great elements. And so what we have is chi, sui, ka, fu, ku in the Japanese language, earth, water, fire, wind, and void. And I put them in single quotes because that's not direct. I mean, it can be direct translation, but it doesn't mean the thing that most Westerners think it means. Like sui, it's water, but it's the nature of water. It's not, I want a glass of water. You wouldn't ask for a glass of sui. You would ask for a glass of mizu. Okay? Same kanji, but it's different, right? When people translate earth, they think of the ground. The ground, like dirt, ground, is do. It's not the same. So this is the quality, or, so again, this is symbolic of a lot of aspects within this thing, okay? So 5 strategies for attack avoidance, okay? So first one from this earth idea is just blocking. Okay, I just stop it from hitting me. Okay, most people are familiar with this, right? I just stop it from hitting me. Okay, so it doesn't matter how you do it, right? It could just be however your style does that kind of thing. Okay, so blocking. I'm just preventing it from landing. Okay, it's still hitting me, right? The limb, the weapon is still hitting me, but the working piece, right? Okay, so blocking. So this one, the strategy though, is not just blocking, it's holding. And I don't mean holding him, you're holding your ground. You're not moving. Okay? This is primary cop kind of thing. Somebody's yelling and screaming in the face and whatnot, and you can't run. I mean, if there's shooting that's happening, you run for cover, but you can't run away. Right? You got to stay. Right? The rules say so, both the written and the unwritten. Okay? And so calm down. I said calm down. This is a very earth kind of state. Unless I'm screaming at him and charging and firing on the way, but if I draw and hold this, right, that's very earth-like. Like if you move, you die. Right? That's, say, a lot of people will try to match things up with a single way of doing things. And what they try to do is they, unintentionally, but what they end up doing is converting this stuff into styles. That's what's happened since the late 70s, from ninjutsu being introduced into the Western world, all the way to now. Just over those decades, it's just turned into a style for most people, and that's been the most disheartening thing that I've seen. Okay, so anyway, blocking, holding, right? And you could see blocking in a lot of these things. People call block anything where the arm touches his arm or whatever. Well, that's blocking. Okay, I can block with my body too, but I'm going to put that somewhere else. Okay, so all right, this sui, this water, right? What this implies is a long-range defensive angling kind of thing, right? So what I'm doing is I'm using long-range distance and angling, right? So the punch comes in, I'm not only going to shift back, but I'm going to shift back and off at an angle, so I'm getting the best of both worlds. I'm moving away from him, so that stresses him out, and I'm also drifting to the side, so he misses. So now I don't have to block him. I can stretch him out, break that strength or speed advantage that he has, and then attack that limb that he just threw at me. Not a block. It's an attack. Okay? So I'm going to pull him out. I'm going to get him to stretch out, right? If somebody grabs a hold of me and I shift back away from him, pull him off his feet, get him to step and stagger. Yeah, sensei, but he can just step and catch his balance. Yeah. And the next thing I'm going to do in between when his balance breaks and he catches is stick my fingers in his throat. Well, there's a whole long list of things, but this creates a certain type of timing. Remember that distance equals time. Okay. So here I'm holding my position. Okay. The timing is pretty much don't as he comes in here, give me your face. Okay. Did you need to pull the facial muscles off the skull? It's an interesting thing. Anyway, fun fact. Okay. Without filleting the skin, without having tools, just with this this shakoken. Pull it right off. Anyway, all right. So this one, distance, long range, stretching this guy out, but this requires a certain type of timing. There's this last second timing. He has to think he's going to land, and then you draw him out to break that balance. So there's a certain type of timing that goes with each of these things. Okay? It's not just, well, I'm going to do this physically. I'm going to do this physically. No, it's not what you do. It's when you do it. It's how you do it. It's why you do it. Okay? This is what makes it very difficult for a lot of people because they just want to know where to put their damn foot. I tell a white belt where to put their foot, but I got a black belt right now that keeps asking me for set techniques required for this upper level belt ranking kind of thing. I'm like, at your level, I use examples, but I'm looking for your body to be able to do the thing and your mind not be stuck on step one, step two. Because you can do a technique completely correctly that's for a given black belt level, the way I gauge things. You can do that kata perfectly and fail the test because your timing is off, your distancing is off. The choice of that technique was absolutely inappropriate for the given situation, and you're back to hammer mode, right? You want to do hammer mode, you can get the first degree black belt, right? But again, most people get a black belt and they just assume once I have it, then I'm it. You know, okay? All right, so this certain type of timing, right? I'm going to move last. Okay, in Japanese, there's this concept called sen, S-E-N, right? Sometimes it can be translated a lot of different ways because it's a short word. Sen can mean linear. There's a whole bunch of things that it can mean. In this context, with this kanji, sen means initiate. Okay, like when you initiate, when you start whatever it is you're doing, when you initiate your martial arts training or your self-defense training, when you get off your ass to change the channel, whatever. Okay, can't find the remote. So in this case, it's when I start moving, right? So this, for those of you who've been around for a while, this is called go no sen. Okay, go no sen. Go no sen. Okay, go no sen is initiating upon his movement, upon his not his movement, his attack, right? So the attack's already on its way, and you're moving. So go no sen is late. Okay, you're not beating him to the punch. It's late. Okay, so in the beginning, for new students, this is where we start them because they're going to be late. They don't know what facial microexpressions to look for. They don't know what body language cues to look for. They can't pick up on intent. Most of them have been avoiding violence their entire life, or conflict, or yelling and screaming, or whatever. So no fluid movement, no stretch, no, right, whatever. Okay, so go no sen. Right? So I initiate upon his attack. So his attack is either bumping me or barely missing. Okay. Next one, this fire mode, sometimes heat, it's the same thing, right? It's the essence of fire, right? This energy, right? There's this combustibility, this when I say aggression, I don't necessarily mean like violent, destructive kind of thing. I mean it's committed, direct movement. Get the hell in there. Okay. It's time to move. Let's go. It's not how most people clean their bedroom or clean their house or whatever. Okay, it's not that kind of I'm going to get around to getting around to getting around to get around to do it kind of thing. Okay, in this one, I'm using close range. Okay, close range, intercepting. Okay. There's a whole bunch of words in here. This is our mod 3. Interception, preemptive movement, that kind of thing. In the sens, this is called sen no sen. Okay? Two different sens, right? Not the same one. Sen no sen. Sen no sen is initiating upon his intent to go. In our system, thinking about attacking is attacking, because as soon as you think about going, your nervous system starts to trigger certain muscles to go. Okay, so if you can catch somebody in that gap, that's a cool thing. All right. So sen no sen, right? This I'm not putting early, right? This is that's not going to make any sense to most people. I'm writing the word point. What that means is there's a point when they decide to go. The intent is there and the body starts gearing up, but the fists haven't come yet, right? So you could call this early, but in this context, early is I had a paranoid response, right? I just went. If I go early, he'll flinch, he'll avoid, that kind of thing, because he's not in attack mode. The intent's not there. He's just waiting and watching. And this is what happens with a lot of people when they fight. They're just throwing a bunch of shit around, hoping that something lands. Okay? When we take people to the range for firearms work, we call that spray and pray. Okay? Okay, so this is a very different type of timing. Okay, this is an on time. This is a, right? When you need to move, you need to move. There cannot be any wind up. There can't be any wind up. There can't be an adjustment with one leg so you can move another leg. Can't be anything like that. It needs to be where you just go. Right? And if the fat guy can do it, anybody can do it. Right? So, well, maybe some people are missing body parts. Anyway, right? So this one is we take it into him. Okay. So in this case, we get him before the strike even happens. Well, how the hell is that avoidance? I'm not evading. I didn't use the word evasion. Evasion means to go around it, to evade it, right? It's already coming, right? The problem is that in English, when we look at stuff like this, there's not really a good word for stopping it from hitting you, moving in such a way that stretches him out. So even if he's still on target, the best he's going to get is a touch. But the only time that's going to count is in point karate, because it didn't do any damage. Yeah, but if he really wanted to, no, he really wanted to. Right? It did nothing. Right? People make up all kinds of shitty logic as soon as they have the rules. Right? Again, this kind of thing. This is a huge problem that we encounter when people come to the system from sport stuff, because they don't realize how conditioned they are by the rules. Okay? And then all of their decision making, all of their training and everything came with these anchors, right? These attachments, right? I was that way when I first got started. Okay? All right, next one. Okay, in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to evade it, right? We're going to do this evade, slip by, oops, slip, right? Where it's coming in and okay, that kind of thing. Most people can go down through these things as I explain them and go, oh shit, that's like karate, that's like Aikido, that's like, yeah, okay. Historically, as fight systems developed, they've developed from something like what we're doing. Ninjutsu came from Sengoku and pre-Sengoku Jedi Warring States period, where people didn't gravitate to, well, I'm doing punching and kicking. Well, we're doing grappling and throwing. Yeah, well, we're going to do locks and all. really? I'm just going to cut you with a sword and we'll call it a fucking day. Okay. And so some of our systems never changed. So we're made fun of by all the modern guys who know how it's done, right? But what happened over time was fighting and this kind of shit became illegal. So for art forms, do, not jutsu, right? Ninjutsu, aiki jujutsu, okay? Sometimes pronounced jitsu by Westerners because the U can be clipped, right? Jutsu can become jitsu, right? But jitsu is an illusion or a trick. Jutsu is a set of skills, a path, a system, right? It's tied to a ryuha, right? A flow, a transmission that gets passed on, right? Do is a way, right? It's anything that has a do added to it is relatively modern, right? So again, but you can ignore my history lessons because people are going to believe whatever they want to believe, right? All right, so in this case, we do that slipping by, think Aikido, think, small circle jiu-jitsu, those kind of things, okay? So evade and slip by. This requires a last second sense of timing, okay? Because I'm going to position myself at the edge of their reach. Here, I'm within reach, and I'm going to create the distance during the evasion. Here, if I can do it, whoa, hey, right? I want to put more distance between him and I because I'm already trying to avoid getting hit, kicked, whatever. And then that stretches him out. This one stretches him out on the fly. This one forces him to have to stretch out to reach me if he wants me, okay? And then there's that last second timing, and it could be in any direction, right? That kind of thing, right? Think, I don't know. Have you ever seen a comedy movie where somebody's behind a locked door and somebody else is going to bash in that door, and just before they hit it, the guy inside opens the door and this guy, falls through? Or if you know what a matador is, right? A bullfighter, okay? That cape, last second, because if they move it too soon, that bull's coming, okay? So it's that kind of last second tricky timing, but where these two can sound, this took me a long time to work out the difference outside of moves, right? That this one, you're in place and he attacks, and I have to increase distance and stretch him out on the fly. This one, I do it early, and then every time he tries to get closer, I just stay back. I'm like a kite in the wind, right? His attempt to get at me is like the wind that keeps that kite moving away. So he has to make a decision. Change his mind, go the hell home, go find somebody easier to attack, or take the shot that he gets, because that's all he's going to get, okay? So, and then there's still this last second tricky timing that's in here as well, but okay, I'm going to slip it. So in that moment, when he's falling and fighting gravity and trying to catch himself, I can do whatever I want. I can escape, I can whip his ass, whatever, but he's busy fighting himself, stability, inertia, gravity, those kind of things. These are strategies, not moves. You can do 100 different moves under a given strategy. Calling something one thing doesn't make it that thing. It's kind of like, if I ask you how many legs does a dog have? No crippled, no injuries, whatever, no birth defects. How many legs does a dog have? 4, right? Okay. Just for shits and giggles, right? We'll have a little argument here, okay? Let's say that just for a moment, the dog's tail is now a leg. Now how many legs does a dog have? Okay. A lot of people would say 5. But the dog still only has 4 legs. Just because we called the tail a leg doesn't make it a leg. This is not just a good self-defense martial arts analogy. This is a good life lesson, okay? Just because you call something doesn't make it so. But as soon as you call it something, you're going to make all your decisions based on that thing. I'm poor. I suck. I'm the greatest. Okay? Everybody's out to get me. The rich are screwing everybody else over. Whatever. Okay. Somebody forced me to buy this or purchase this thing that I can't live without because they held a gun to my head, and now I'm going to blame them because that's why I'm spending all my money. Anyway, right. So that's wind, right? Earth, water, fire, wind, void, or earth, water, fire, wind. right? So we have blocking or holding position, not going anywhere, right? Person comes in here, boom, nope, either because I can't move or because I don't feel threatened, okay? If my 4-year-old grandson started swinging away, not that he would, he's a cool kid, but if he started swinging away, I know I can just put my hand on his forehead and smile at him. He'd be swinging at space, but he can't touch me, right? I'm not going to be pow, then tell my daughter, well, see, if he wouldn't have, did his thing, man, I wouldn't have had to like put my toe in his eye socket. Okay, that's just no. It's not necessary. Okay, but some people, right? Remember that hammer thing? Pow! 4-year-old across the. Anyway, okay? On one level that's kind of funny, but I would not advocating kicking your kids. Right, anyway, so the last one is both a combination of things, but also things that don't quite fit into that level. Okay, so I'm going to put the word creative here as a catch-all. This does not mean do whatever you want. No, the sound didn't cut out. I just want to make sure YouTube allows us to stay on the air, right? So creative, right? To kind of convey this a little bit more, right? Hatsumi Sensei, my teacher, right? 34th Grandmaster, right? He's won't be with us for very much longer. I will be sad. However, he has this quote, and it's in, for people who think I'm making this stuff up, it is in Togakureiryu Ninpo, also known as the Tenshi Jinryaku no Maki, also known as the Books of Heaven, Earth, and Mankind. It's the Shidoshi Instructor Scroll, whatever you want to call it, okay? So there is a chapter on striking, taijutsu, the whole thing, right? This whole taijutsu idea. And the formula for taijutsu is legs, then spine, then limbs, or footwork, torso work, right? And limbs, right? In that order. We fight from the ground up, like Shin-Na Kung Fu and a bunch of other systems from the ground up, not from the top down, okay? It's very different. But the rule of thumb, the preferred method in taijutsu, Ninpo taijutsu, Budo taijutsu, whatever your favorite brand of fuzzy words are, okay, is that's the order, right? Legs. Legs are 90% of taijutsu, right? 90% of taijutsu comes from the hips down. 70% of taijutsu comes from the knees down, okay? And I mean from knees to toes, not just well, your knees are bent or whatever, okay? However, in that same section, right, Hatsumi Sensei says, when you can't move your legs in taijutsu, right, you have to move your torso first, okay? So I have another teacher that translates that a different way. And when I was training with him, we would get into these little situations where based on the speed of his attack, your environment, your emotional state, you got blindsided, right? Psychological state, right? Think about, have you ever just been consumed by something, right? The wife gave you a honey-do list or whatever, right? Or you're just going off to the store, hop out of the car and you're trying to remember this thing in your head, or you're studying the list, or because I know none of you guys are like, safety morons where you're just walking out in public, scrolling and drooling on your phones, right? You're not that person, okay? And if you are, tell me you're not, okay? Lie to me, right? But psychological state, right? So I'm in, what do I need to pick up for dinner tonight? Or here's the list of things I'm getting, or I'm going into the store for this thing, and you turn around and right there they are, okay? So it's not an emotional state, it's a psychological state, and now you kind of get caught between those two things and you got to go, okay? So what that teacher would always say is sometimes you don't have time for taijutsu. I know, man, the purist, if they're watching this, holy shit, they just shit their depends, okay? So anyway, but sometimes you don't have time for taijutsu, okay? Which means you need to move the target. So if he's reaching out to, if I go into a fending kind of thing here and he reaches out to grab and I'm still getting out of what am I picking up for dinner into holy shit, I'm in a fight mode, okay? Your brain has to make that switch. It's for your body to switch. Your adrenals are kicking in, the states are changing, all that kind of stuff. Not the United States or the states of Mexico or whatever, okay? So, but he suddenly reaches out and I just pull my hand away and he misses, okay? That's void, right? He throws a punch at my gut, and I just kind of move my body off to the side and create a hole, right? Or I pull back just enough for him to miss. That's void, right? Okay. Some people live here and they stay like in this fire mode and they're way too close, right? If you can trade shots with jabs or you're just out of jab range and your idea of evasion is this kind of thing, that's why he whacks you with the right cross, because you're in, but you're not in far enough. You're out, but you're not out far enough. And then what you're going to try to rely on is blocking or covering, and this slip. It works. Lots of people use it. I'm not knocking it, right? It's just one way. Okay? So these things, here's the big thing that I need to make a point of, right? Neither this, nor this, nor this, nor this, nor this. None of these are better than the rest. But from most people's individual perspective, they're going to pick one or two of these things and see that as, well, that's me, man. That's like my favorite. That's what I always do. Okay, great. Then what are you able to do when you're forced into a situation where one of the other options would be the thing? Because what you're doing, what you normally do, is going to get you killed. Or some people say it's going to get you killed, right? Not like the skirt. Anyway, right? So none of these are better than anything else. The hardest thing for most students in ninjutsu who are heading for mastery to get is that this is not like in my early days when I went through Kung Fu. We started out with some general training, and then we took a pass through these different animals. And then you chose one, and that's what you were going to master. This isn't the same. Okay? These are strategic options for handling a given situation based on either outcome or whatever. Okay? That's something I didn't list on here. What's the preferred outcome? Okay? Let's say that this guy's wearing a hoodie and that front pocket looks a little on the heavy side and there's this weird big old lunky kind of shape in it. Okay? And I know that most thugs, they might steal a gun, but they don't steal holsters. Okay? So if somebody's not wearing a holster, 90% of the time, that weapon is in one of two places. Waistband, could be anywhere around the waistband, but normally it's right here, or it's in a hoodie pocket. And since it's June now, end of June, so through July, August, early September, people walking around with a friggin' hoodie, I know it's a style, just like wearing your pants down the crack of your ass, walking around like the guy in the prison who's signaling to everybody that he's available, right? It's prison style. Yeah, it is. Right? Anyway, it'll be in a hoodie pocket, right? So anybody that's wearing a hoodie and the freaking hood's up and it's baking, it's 90 fucking degrees outside and whatnot, first the place I look, right, is does the hoodie have pockets? Because people always go for convenience. That's why most people would prefer a martial arts or a self-defense program having a drive-up window. Anyway, I digress. So if it has pockets, I'm going to look at the shape of the pockets, because empty pockets look different than a pocket with a 2 to 4 pound paperweight in it. If you know what I'm saying. Okay. If it doesn't have a pocket, then I'm looking at the length of the hoodie, because he's going to have to lift it up to get to the waistband. Okay. So there's strategies, okay? And we need to have options, okay? We need to have options. Anybody can do anything they want, right? You're absolutely free to gravitate toward whatever, okay? But for anybody that does any of the studying, can you see this, the mandala, this Mikyo stuff, all that, when we're studying life, we're studying people, we're studying the human condition, that kind of thing. On one side, to study conflict, but on the other side, to understand and be able to communicate better. Okay? Tiger side of training, dragon side of training, life. Okay? If I understand, if I can see people's choices, right? People tell me whether they're an extrovert, introvert, what their personality type is and all that, based on educational choices. And I don't mean like going to school for 12 years, because You have to, right? But I mean, you go to university, what degrees were you going after? Or you went to trade school, or you're pissed off at your work because I got a college degree in this thing and I'm flipping burgers. Okay, well, all right. Well, now I can write off the job because that wasn't your choice. But people choose self-defense systems, martial arts styles, vocations, partners, all kinds of things based on their personality type, their comfort zones, and their way of trying to get pleasure in the world and avoid all the pain. Right? It's not as then all I need is social media, because yeah, I'm gonna round this out with one last thing. You guys ever watched what there was an old TV show it's tied to the Avengers, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? So this guy was in charge, his name was Coulson. I think it was the first episode, they caught this hacker and they were going to go find somebody. They were convinced they're going to be on the team. They're going to go find somebody. He goes, okay, you go and tail this person, and you go and see if you can find where they are, and you go. And she goes, no. I'll just look at their social media page. Well, what's that going to do? Well, everybody checks in. They're having lunch at this place here. They're at home. Oh, look, they took a picture from home. They're enjoying that Mountain Dew that they're drinking and all that. And he goes, really? Wow, I love my job. People practically surveil themselves, which is really funny because half those people that do all that stuff complain because all their privacy's gone. But they leave the tracker on their phone, right? You can turn that off, all kinds of things, right? So anyway, that'll be for a coup den maybe, right? So 5 strategies for 5 reasons, right? That people, that it'd be a good idea to have strategic flexibility, right? So we're not going to match his fight style by fighting like him. We're going to match our system's options in a way that match his fight style, so he can't do what he likes to do easily, right? We're gonna train so that we can navigate around and we can choose tactics and strategies based on environmental conditions, emotional states, psychological states, rules that we might have to work around, and the outcome. Okay, somebody's coming to me full bore, or the gun's right there. That's where I started with the gun, right? And he reaches out to punch, but I think there might be something in that freaking pocket just because he hasn't drawn it yet, right? So he throws a punch. I'm going to circle around behind him, pop out that leg and bring him down so his arms fly away from his body, because I'm going to do everything that I do is going to be to keep his hands away from those pockets, right? And him off balance and fighting gravity and everything else. And unless he wants to do suicide by self-defense guy, he's not going to shoot through himself. So I'm going to use him as a shield. Strategies, tactics, not just moves. Okay? Anyway, that's what I have. Hopefully you'll jump on the Friday virtual call. It's $9, right? For an hour-and-a-half class, and you get the video. So even if you last minute you get called into work, or the, I don't know, kid drops a toaster on his foot or something, and you can't make it to class, you still get the lesson. All right. So anyway, hopefully I'll see you. And if not, no harm, no foul. If when you go over to that thing, to the page right now, if it's not set, if the buttons aren't active or whatever, just give it a few minutes. Things need transition time between when I end this. So if it's not hot now, it will be within like 30 minutes, and then you can get signed up, and then I'll see you on Friday for class. And if not, no harm, no foul. I will see you next week on our next episode of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday.